Some incidents happen in the silence of an empty house. Moments so disturbing that even years later, the memory returns in flashes. A sound that shouldn't be there, a shadow that doesn't belong, a whisper that seems to know your name. My story happened 7 winters ago. On a night I was supposed to be completely alone. Nothing that happened afterward should ever have been possible. And yet it happened. And to this day, I still don't understand how I survived. It was the first week of January when my parents left town for a 2-day wedding in Lahore. They trusted me enough to watch the house alone. I was 19 at the time, studying for exams, and honestly excited for the quiet. I loved the idea of being home alone, until the events of that night made me wish they had never left. Our house wasn't huge, but it was old. Every corridor had a draft. The wooden staircase cracked with every shift of the wind. And during winter, the cold seeped into the walls, making the nights feel heavier, darker, almost oppressive. That night, I made myself a cup of chai, wrapped a blanket around my shoulders, and opened my laptop to study. The heater hummed softly, the only sound breaking the stillness. That silence. I grew so used to it that when the first sound came, I almost convinced myself I imagined it. Faint knock. Not at the front door. Not at the back door. But somewhere inside the house. Soft, deliberate tap. Tap, tap. Froze. The sound came from upstairs, from the direction of my room. But that didn't make sense. No one else was home. I stood completely still, waiting. 5 seconds passed. Then 10. Then another. Tap, tap, tap. I swallowed. It's nothing, I whispered to myself. It's the heater. Wood contracting. Anything. Anything except what it truly was. I grabbed my phone and slowly climbed the wooden stairs. Every step groaned under my weight, echoing into the dark hallway above. The air felt colder, as if the temperature changed the moment I reached the top. My room was at the very end. A thin line of darkness seeped through the gap at the bottom of the door. I reached for the doorknob, and the tapping stopped. The silence was somehow worse. I pushed the door open. Nothing. My room looked exactly as I left it. Books on my study table, lamp glowing warmly, blanket on the bed slightly messy. I stepped inside, exhaling in relief. Of course it was nothing. I checked the wardrobe, the windows, even behind the curtains. I was actually laughing at myself when my phone buzzed. A new notification. Photo saved to gallery. I frowned. I hadn't taken a photo. Then another notification. Photo saved to gallery. My hands trembled as I opened my gallery. The newest picture froze my blood. It was a photo of me, standing downstairs, head lowered, blanket wrapped around my shoulders. Exactly how I looked a few minutes ago, except the angle was impossible. The photo was taken from upstairs, from my bedroom doorway, from where I was standing now. My breath hitched. Someone had been here. Someone had been watching me. And the tapping. The tapping had come from this room because someone had been inside it. I staggered backward, nearly knocking over my chair. My mind raced. Should I run? Call someone? Check the house? Every instinct screamed at me to leave, but fear pinned me in place. Then came another sound. Not tapping. Not footsteps. But a whisper. A voice so faint I almost mistook it for the wind. Come upstairs. Came from the hallway. I didn't think. I bolted out of the room, racing down the stairs so fast I nearly slipped. My heart hammered violently, breath coming in gasps. I grabbed my keys, my phone, threw on my sandals, and yanked the front door open. Something stopped me. Feeling. Presence. And then. Another notification. Photo saved to gallery. My hands shook uncontrollably as I looked. This time the photo was of the staircase. But not empty. Halfway down the stairs, captured in the dim light, was a figure. Tall, thin silhouette. Standing perfectly still. Head tilted. Arms hanging unnaturally low. Black eyes reflecting the flash. I dropped my phone. Pure panic flooded through me. I sprinted outside, slammed the door behind me, and didn't stop running until I reached the neighbor's house 3 doors down. Mrs. Siddiqa opened the door, shocked to see me shaking, pale, unable to form words. I stayed in her guest room the entire night, refusing to go back home. She called my parents, then the police. When the officers arrived, they searched every room, every cupboard, the attic, the basement, the backyard, even the roof. They found nothing. No footprints. No signs of forced entry. No trace of another person ever being inside the house. But there was one thing they couldn't explain. Every picture in my gallery, the photos of the figure, had vanished. Completely gone. Not deleted. Not corrupted. Just gone, like they were never taken. Except one thing remained. One image. One final photo. A picture of my bedroom door, taken from the inside of my closet. As if someone had been hiding there, watching me. I never spent another night alone in that house. Even after my parents returned, every creak, every shift of the wind, every shadow in the hallway made me flinch. I kept imagining that figure standing at the top of the stairs, head tilted, waiting for me to look up. To this day, I still don't understand how it entered, how it disappeared, or why it chose me. But I know one thing. That tapping I heard. It wasn't wood. It wasn't the heater. It wasn't the wind. It was someone trying to come out of hiding, and waiting for me to be alone. I reported it. I tried to forget it. I told myself it wasn't real. But I know what I saw. I know what I heard. And I know that someone was inside my house that night. And whatever it was, it should never have happened. Some Home Alone experiences leave you shaken. Others leave you permanently changed. The incident I'm about to share happened during a time when I believed I was safest in my own house. But safety is an illusion. And sometimes the horror doesn't come from strangers outside. It comes from somewhere far closer, somewhere you never even think to check. This is the night I learned that danger can live in the quiet corners of your home, even when you swear you're alone. It happened when I was 16, still in school, and grounded for sneaking out with my friends the weekend before. My parents went to attend a family dinner at my aunt's house and left me at home as punishment. I wasn't allowed to go anywhere. Not even out to the gate. They would be back around midnight, and I figured spending a few hours watching TV would be easy enough. Our home wasn't isolated or creepy. It was a normal suburban house, neighbors nearby, streetlights glowing outside, the distant sounds of traffic. The kind of place where Home Alone should feel boring, not frightening. But the worst horrors don't need abandoned cabins or forest trails. Sometimes they happen in plain, ordinary homes. Around 7:30 p.m., I made myself noodles, grabbed a blanket, and settled on the couch. The TV's glow filled the living room, flickering across walls lined with family pictures. I felt comfortable, completely unaware that this would be the last moment that night I felt any sense of ease. The first strange thing happened when the kitchen light flickered. Just a small single blink. I didn't think much of it at first. Old wiring, maybe. But when it happened again, and the overhead bulb dimmed unnaturally for a moment, a coldness crawled down my spine, a sensation too instinctive to ignore. The living room lights stayed normal, but the kitchen lights continued to flutter. I paused the show, stood up quietly, and took a step toward the kitchen entrance. The moment I crossed the threshold, the lights snapped back to normal. Everything looked fine. Ordinary. Quiet. I shook my head. Overthinking, I mumbled. I turned around. That's when I heard it. Soft exhale. The kind of breath someone makes when they're trying not to be heard. Froze. The air behind me felt charged, as if someone was standing uncomfortably close. But I didn't turn around. Couldn't. My heart hammered in my chest. I forced myself to glance into the living room. Me. Silence filled the house except for the faint hum of the refrigerator. But that feeling, that eerie sense of not being alone, wouldn't leave me. I returned to the couch and resumed my show, but my attention drifted. Every sound in the house felt too loud, too sharp. I kept looking toward the hallway, expecting something, anything to move. By 9 p.m., I was almost convinced I was scaring myself over nothing. Almost. I was scrolling Instagram when a notification popped up. New device connected to your Wi-Fi. My blood ran cold. We had only 3 devices. My parents' phones and mine. All of them were connected long before tonight. This was a new device. Phone. Unknown. Name. Line. I stared at the notification in disbelief. Someone else was in the house. I quickly opened the router app. Showed all connected devices. My phone. My dad's phone. My mom's phone. Unknown mobile phone. My throat tightened. I immediately pressed block device. But the second I tapped the button, the unknown phone went offline on its own. As if the owner had turned off their Wi-Fi. As if they knew I noticed them. I grabbed my blanket tightly, the room suddenly feeling colder. I wanted to call my parents, but something made me hesitate. Embarrassment, fear of being wrong, or the dread that I wasn't wrong. Before I could make a decision, another sound reached me. A step. Stairs. Low. Measured. Heavy enough to be unmistakable. My heart nearly stopped. We had no pets. No siblings. No one else had keys. Someone was walking on the second floor. I muted the TV without moving a muscle, holding my breath. The footsteps paused. The silence that followed was suffocating, pressing on my ears like thick fog. Creak. One step. Closer to the staircase. I couldn't breathe. Should I run outside? Hide? Stay still? The next sound made the decision for me. My phone vibrated. Message. From an unknown number. 2 words. Don't move. I felt like ice water poured into my veins. I read the message again and again, hoping it was a prank, hoping I was hallucinating. But the footsteps began again, moving slowly down the stairs. Panic. I jumped off the couch and sprinted to the front door. My hands fumbled desperately with the locks. I twisted the bolt, yanked the handle. The door didn't open. Because somebody had flipped the security chain from the inside. Someone had locked me in. My pulse thundered in my ears. I forced myself to turn around toward the staircase. The house fell dead silent. No footsteps. No movement. Just me and the suffocating realization that someone was watching. Then, another message flashed on my phone. Stop trying to run. I staggered backward. My breathing was rapid and shaky. I could barely think, barely speak. My hands trembled so badly I nearly dropped the phone. I typed back with trembling fingers. Who are you? 3 dots appeared immediately, as if the person had been waiting. Look up. I refused. I didn't want to see. But the house was so silent that even the smallest shift in the air felt loud. Something warm and humid brushed the back of my neck. My skin crawled. The air suddenly reeked of sweat. I shut my eyes. Whatever was behind me was close. Too close. I bolted sideways into the downstairs bathroom, jumped inside, slammed the door and locked it. My chest heaved violently. I pressed my ear to the door. Silence. Soft breathing. Right outside the bathroom. I slid to the floor, covering my mouth to keep myself from sobbing. Minutes passed. Or maybe seconds. I couldn't tell. My phone buzzed again. I can hear you. Another message followed immediately. Don't make this harder. My entire body trembled uncontrollably. I didn't answer. Couldn't. For several agonizing minutes, the house stayed silent. Then a loud, deliberate knock hit the bathroom door. Just once. I almost screamed. Second knock. Then a third. Slow, patient, confident. The kind of knock that said, I know you won't come out. Then everything stopped. The house grew quiet again. Terrifyingly quiet. I stayed hiding in the bathroom for almost 40 minutes before I heard the sound of a car pulling up. My parents were finally home. I waited until I heard my mother call my name before opening the door. I ran to her, sobbing and shaking uncontrollably. My father searched the entire house. Every room. Every corner. Every window and door. Nothing. No sign of forced entry. No unfamiliar belongings. No footprints. No evidence anyone had been there. Except, my mom found something. the security chain by the front door. It wasn't flipped. It wasn't stuck. It wasn't jammed. It was ripped out of the wall completely, screws bent outward, as if someone had pulled it out with inhuman force. The police were called. They found nothing. No intruder. No phone. No device records. No fingerprints. But I will never forget the moment that haunts me most. When the officers left, I checked my phone again. The messages were gone. All of them. Except the last one. A single message that refused to delete, no matter what I tried. I'll come back when you're alone. I haven't been home alone since. And I doubt I ever will be again. Some home alone incidents leave no proof, no traces, no clear answers. But they leave one thing behind. A fear that stays with you forever. And whoever or whatever was in my house that night, they weren't finished with me. There are some experiences you can explain logically. Then there are others that stay with you because nothing about them makes sense. This incident happened during a weekend I was supposed to enjoy, a weekend I was excited for. But excitement turned into dread, and dread into something far worse. What I'm about to share didn't just scare me, changed the way I see my home, my memories, and even myself. I grew up in a small double-story house in Rawalpindi, the kind of place where everyone knew each other and the nights were quiet except for the occasional distant barking of stray dogs. When I was 22, I had just gotten my first job, and my parents had gone out of town for a family emergency. It wasn't supposed to be serious, just a relative falling sick, so they left me home for what was supposed to be one night. I wasn't the type to get scared easily. I actually liked being alone. The quiet helped me relax. But the quiet that night, it felt wrong from the moment the sun set. I made dinner, watched YouTube for a while, and eventually went to bed around 12:30 a.m. Everything was normal until something woke me at 3:11 a.m. Voice, very faint, very close, whispering right next to my ear. First I thought it was a dream. But when my eyes opened, the darkness of my bedroom didn't feel like the peaceful midnight quiet I was used to. Felt heavy, suffocating. I stayed still, listening. Nothing. But I couldn't shake it. That whisper had felt too real. I sat up, rubbing my eyes, trying to convince myself it was sleep paralysis or leftover fragments of a dream. I reached for the lamp switch. It didn't turn on. The electricity was out. I sighed, annoyed but not scared. Not yet. My phone showed 3:12 a.m. The battery was at 31%. I used the flashlight and scanned the room. Everything was normal. My wardrobe was slightly open though. Something I never left open. I got up and closed it. No big deal. But when I turned back toward my bed, my blanket had moved. It was a small shift, like someone had tugged on it, but enough to send a jolt of cold through my chest. The windows were locked. The door was locked. No one else was home. I stood completely still, listening. Then the whisper came again. Come downstairs. This time it was unmistakable. Froze. The voice wasn't mine. It wasn't a dream. And it didn't sound like an intruder either. Sounded like a child. I wanted to run, I really did. But curiosity and disbelief forced me toward the bedroom door. I pressed my ear against it. Silence. I slowly cracked the door open and peeked into the hallway. My flashlight barely cut through the darkness. The staircase leading downwards was pitch black. Hello, I whispered, hating the tremble in my voice. No answer. Step by step I went down the stairs. Halfway down, the air suddenly turned icy cold. My breath hung in the air in a small white cloud. The power outage couldn't cause this. Something else was here. When I reached the bottom of the stairs, I heard something that made my stomach twist. A giggle. Small child's giggle. Except it didn't sound right. It was stretched, slowed down, as if someone was trying to imitate a child and failing. I felt my skin crawl. The sound came from the living room. I forced myself to walk toward it. My flashlight flickered as if reacting to the presence of something. I scanned the room. Me. Then my light landed on something that made my heart drop to the floor. The front door. Wide open. The cold air blew in through the doorway, the wind fluttering the edge of the welcome mat. But there were no footprints. No signs of any person entering or leaving. The night outside was still, the street empty. I should have run outside. But instead I closed the door. And that was my mistake. Because something whispered behind me. "You shouldn't have done that." I whipped around. No one. My flashlight sputtered, dimming to almost nothing. I backed away slowly, heading toward the staircase, desperate to get back to my room and lock the door. But when my foot hit the first step, the lights flickered violently. Then they turned on. The electricity returned. And I realized the whisper wasn't the worst part. The worst part was what I saw in the reflection of the mirror at the base of the stairs. Boy, maybe 7 years old, standing behind me. But he wasn't standing normally. His body was distorted, bent at angles impossible for a human. His neck was too long, too thin. His arms hung unnaturally low, fingers nearly touching the floor. His eyes were completely black. I spun around, but the staircase behind me was empty. My breath trembled. My vision blurred. My heart slammed against my ribs. My legs felt numb as I stumbled backward, staring into the mirror again. The boy was still there. Closer. His mouth opened slowly. Too slowly. Stretching wider than any child's mouth should be able to stretch. Then the lights flickered again. The boy vanished. I bolted upstairs and locked myself in my room. I slid against the door, breathing in ragged gasps. I grabbed my phone and called my parents, begging them to come home. They arrived 30 minutes later. My dad checked the house thoroughly, room by room. Everything was normal. The front door was locked. No signs of forced entry. No footprints, no cold spots, nothing unusual. Except, my mother found something odd. The wardrobe in their bedroom was half open. She assumed Dad left it that way while packing earlier. But I knew better. Because something scratched the inside of my wardrobe. Faint sound. Too soft for anyone else to hear. But I heard it. And then something whispered again, so quietly it felt like it came from inside my bones. "You can't lock me out." My parents brushed it off as me imagining things. I didn't sleep the rest of the night. Over the next month, little things kept happening. My bedroom door opening on its own. Hearing footsteps when no one was home. My phone alarm going off at 3:11 a.m. every night. Eventually we sold that house. To this day, I wonder if the child ever truly existed. Or if it was something else pretending to be one. One thing I know for sure. I was not alone that night. And whatever that thing was, it wasn't human. Some home alone experiences leave you scared. But some leave you with a truth you never wanted. Your home has corners you never look at. Shadows you never notice. Places where something could hide. And watch you while you sleep. And some things hiding in your home should never have existed at all.